Welcome back to Gradcast, real stories from UAL, where we divulge, discuss, and despair, sometimes over life after graduation. During this episode, we will learn some UAL grads' experiences and hope to be inspired by their stories. I'm your host, Hayley Jones, and I'm a journalism graduate from UAL, and something about me would be that I love to have fun and meet new people. So yeah, let's get started. I'm joined here today by the lovely Slavi. So do you want to tell us a bit more about yourself?
Yeah, hello everyone. So I'm Slavi and I love cats. And I finished Masters in User Experience Design at LCC. I think my more precise name of it is Editorial Content Designer because I edit the content, I don't produce content, unlike you here at the moment. So that was the main part, and this is the way I want to pursue because it kind of marries my trainings of user experience design, my previous education of graphic design. It pretty much pulls everything together. I actually quite like because now everything is content, everything is some form of information, images, texts, even podcasts. So the more you'll be able to organize all these things and provide clear message, I think you're more preferred than others. That's one thing, and the other thing is I'm slightly going towards the academic part, academia, because I'm also at the moment still change maker, which for those of you who I'm assuming wouldn't know what is change maker because it's quite a big word. Essentially, we're kind of body of students or alumni which are looking for equality, diversity, and inclusivity, and pretty much exploring topics around social, racial justice and decoloniality within academia, and we're working with courses that can embed more of these in them. I actually worked with, for example, animation and animation as a whole. So there is quite interesting and exciting work coming for the next academic year. So I hope I continue that and build my academic practice, call it like that. So yeah, that's another part I actually like.
So it's clear you have like a vision of where you're going, and I mean, I guess for new grads, it's like when you're so used to doing one degree, it's like, how do you kind of find that vision? And, if you had to give some, I wouldn't say advice, but like, some skills that people would have to like hone in on to get to that stage, what would you recommend?
Oh, yeah. Well, I guess maybe if I have to look at how I came to that personally, yes, I guess in my previous university, I was studying graphic design, right? But then I managed to find a web editorial job. And I picked one summer experience, then I got another summer experience in that. I continued working into that. Then here, once again, I had that opportunity. So coming towards the end of my degree, I started considering, where I can pull all my experiences together. And because I see that the job market at the moment is slightly challenging, so I thought if I show that I have experience in the field, that would be the most beneficial to me. And even though I have different another experiences, I think this is the kind of the most prominent, pretty much most time that I had collected as professional experience. And this is actually, I guess you can call it in a way that for me it worked out somehow very nicely, that I combined the story together so I can have something coherent that I can say now to you as basically because I have my professional experience in content design, but also is backed by my education from graphic and user experience design. So this is, I guess, how I came about, but that was not easy. That was not easy at all. There was a lot of reflection, thinking about which way to pursue. I'll be honest, I guess if I have to look at my ideal jobs, I started as a branding, I wanted to be, actually, I think I was, motion designer first. But the problem is, the equipment was very high. Pretty much the investment for the equipment was very, very costly. These computers can cost so much. So I was like, okay, maybe that's not for me yet.
Yeah.
So
Can we get a figure for the people who don't know what you're talking about?
Oh, yeah. Sorry, yeah. Well, I mean, I guess if you want something decent or if you want to produce something, because, it involves working with videos and video effects, essentially you can look at 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 pounds easily.
Wow.
Even more than that. So, personally, I was not able to afford it. And especially as a foreigner coming to the UK, not having a house that I can base my equipment. I didn't want to travel around with such expensive stuff. Then I moved to branding designer because I liked, developing brands. But then I tried to apply for a couple of jobs, actually didn't find much opportunities, to be honest, and I found that it's actually much harder, to be honest. Then I was like, okay, let's just see something else. Then I stumbled across on user experience design, and I had it in my previous university one unit, so it's user experience design. I actually liked it a lot. It felt resonating with me in terms of the process, understanding, pretty much looking behind things that inform the outcome, right? Understanding the user and providing them with value, etc., etc. So then that was this that I applied. I was kind of unsuccessful, but I still decided to pursue that. Coming here, and yeah, eventually with content design, I was kind of on the fence because obviously it was quite nice because I would like working with websites and pretty much coming together with all that knowledge and using coding as well, content management systems, or pretty much the things that's happening behind the website. For simple explanation, where you manage all the information of the website that you see in the front side. And then I said, okay, let's explore that, and seeing now that it may be very useful for artificial intelligence and machine learning. So I felt like that can be quite a nice area to continue exploring. And so yeah, it's been a lot of thinking and trying and errors and pretty much deciding which one is the best for me. And I see in the UK content design is a big thing, so that's I think a great place. So kind of like the market is basically good, because sometimes if you try to force it too much, it may not work out, at least from my point of view. I guess I'm that type of person that try to adjust and be adaptable rather than be stubborn and trying to go through the wall. But, like everyone's different. So, something else may work for the people.
Yeah, because I guess it can be really hard when you've been studying a subject for so long and you get invested and you're just like, I must do that subject and nothing else. And then you get out there and you're like, okay, then there's only limited spaces for doing that. So now I need to kind of just leave that and find something else, like a new dream. Would you say?
But to be honest, I was actually having such thoughts about, for example, my degree in graphic design, because now every day, not every day, now today, there is a lot of people pretty much easily picking up graphic design. I'm sure you do a lot of graphic design yourself as well, right? Everyone.
I use Canva.
I mean,
I'm sorry.
I wouldn't say that's a big issue to me, as long as you do the job. I think where the problem happens for the kind of creative breed is we don't somehow skip the part of delivering value for who we work with, and looking more beyond the visual outcomes, which obviously we do like that part a lot, and I do appreciate it. Of course, I love beautiful graphic designs and well thoughtfully made. But the problem is, okay, these people, they don't value exactly that. They value, for example, people that show up more to their website, or, for example, buy more of that. You essentially have to find that balance between how you can use your skill of that appreciation, that aesthetics that you develop to help leverage it to help someone else's need in which lies slightly in a different way. So this is why I guess, in my opinion, you need to have the variety of skills, just so be able to look from different angles and try to understand how you can provide value. Coming back to graphic design, I actually had thoughts, maybe that's useless degree that I got. I know there is a graphic design is big at UL, so yeah. But the point is, initially I thought that. And I was thinking, okay, why did I spend 3 years of that? But at the same time, there is value in that as well, because first of all, you get to try things. For example, without my degree, I wouldn't be able to get to content design, and I actually didn't know that these things that, lead you there, right? Or basically, there'll be things on your journey that you may stumble upon, and you can change. Let's say, for example, you can decide, I like podcasting, and just start doing podcasting, why not? But the other part of graphic design is I see, for example, now that I'm interested and I'm trying to develop a business, actually graphic design is such a useful skill and very applicable. It's just I guess for you is the goal to find the purpose and the value of where you can apply it, and how it can work out. So I guess you have to be pretty much in tune with what's happening, how these skills are used. So yeah, pretty much, as I said, I have one point that I thought actually I wasted 3 years, but then there's actually a lot of value behind that. Without that, I wouldn't be here in the first place.
Could you share maybe some key moments from after you graduated until your journey now?
What do you mean by key moments?
Memorable moments that you feel were yesterday, but live with you till this day.
Yeah, well, a couple of moments if I have to highlight. To be honest, it's quite mixed. For example, obviously, receiving my my certificate or confirmation that I finally, graduated with, distinction, which I was super happy about. That, it's a big day after so much work.
Congratulations.
Thanks. Then after that, also another big moment I would say is that's the fact that we participated at the LCC Accelerate, program that we had. So we had to develop our business and pretty much continue going back to, I guess, university with our final project, which was great, to be honest. And then another part of, how they say, of outside of university life is just a little bit of pause and relax with me going to India, exploring different culture, if that counts as one.
Yeah, I mean, of course it counts. So how long did you take a gap year, or like what was that like?
No, I actually went, I finished in December. So then I just had this, I think, 3 months until I go to India, and pretty much after India I started LCC Accelerate, and before India I had my confirmation, which I could go with ease in mind and happy vibes and attitudes to India, enjoying life finally.
Yeah, because obviously like stress and pressure of having to graduate was like off your shoulders.
Yeah.
And you did masters, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, do you have any insights into the interview process when doing UX roles?
Specifically to UX roles, I would say not so much, but I can guess talk about relevant jobs around that. For example, how I was applied as content design. I think it's quite interesting, compared with my experience when I was applying for internships. I think 2 years ago now, when it was in 2021. Because obviously the type of jobs is slightly different, because for internship the requirements are slightly lower compared to, let's say, big entry level or midweight, for example. But I feel like there is some change in the application process, or maybe this is what happens in London in terms of what are you expected to write on your application. And then the question wise, I think the questions on the interview, when you go to the interview stage, I think they're more or less the same, pretty much competency-based questions. I don't think there's too many behavioral questions. I would say there's questions around the culture, where you can pretty much, they can gauge if you'll be a good fit for the company that you'll be applying, and obviously you can show that you have understanding of the company as well.
Yeah, I mean, I guess what loads of graduates or like people who are going to graduate would want to hear is like kind of, with creative roles, when you go into an interview process, usually when you have a creative role, you have a lot of like mostly personality and stuff. And how do you kind of like, what tips or advice would you give for people who want to like balance that out, and like how, in a sense of like, where's the professionalism like starting and like ending in a way?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. Actually, I've been thinking about that, to be honest, in my applications. And to be honest, how I'm coming about that, it is pretty much as a salesperson. Man, I'm sure a lot of creative people would not resonate with that. But in terms of salesperson, what do I mean? Is basically try to appeal to what they want to hear, essentially, right? You have to answer the application, the requirements for the job application. So the more you tailor your responses to them, the better. Obviously, there will be places where you can share something about your practice. Essentially, right, when you're answering, you tailor what you say to them, but the content of what you're saying, it's coming from your personal experience. And this is, I guess, how you can marry both, in my opinion. I think, it's not expected from you to how do I say everything about you, say all your likes that you have, or all the hobbies that you have, in my opinion. Later on they'll learn about that. I think, to me the point is just simplicity, and simplicity of the message, basically, just so they can take away clear message, and just stick with that.
Yeah. Something else that I wanted to ask you, because I know we've had from previous chats, is like any challenges or surprises that you've encountered that you think are significant, obviously from moving from a university setting to just like the outside real world.
Challenges, well, I mean, I guess the job market, if I have to be honest, that's the biggest challenge and surprise, not gonna lie. I guess maybe I was slightly more successful in my 2 years ago well, maybe the economy was still better, even though it was mid-COVID. But I think still the negative impacts of COVID were not catching up with the economy. So I believe there was more opportunities, and especially in London, it's quite competitive if you want to make it here. So yeah, that's quite a bit of effort. I'll be honest, I'm not a fan at all of 3, 4, 5 rounds of job applications, because that's a lot. You're writing your application, takes a lot of time. Sometimes I'm spending about, I don't know, a good few hours, like 4 to 6 hours for cover letter and tailoring my CV for each job. And then, it's okay, it's a lot. And then if you start receiving rejections, it gets a little bit disappointing and, demotivating. So yeah, I've been thinking about how maybe I can go about that. Yeah. But yeah, that's my biggest surprise, if I have to come back to it, is just the competitiveness and the expectations that you're placed on.
Yeah. So if you were to give advice to the old Slavi when he was doing all those applications, what would it be?
To the old applications, well, I mean, to be honest, I'm still in the process as well. So yeah, I guess if I have to give advice, I mean, as I said once again, pretty much tailor your message to what they want to hear. Obviously, don't lie. That we have to make sure that you don't lie and don't overcomplicate them. Don't try to say too much. Just try to say the most relevant part. And I think to that, it may come a little bit of practice. For me, works with writing. So, find your best way. Maybe you can draw it. I don't know if, there's many ways. As long as you can memorize what you try to say in a clear way.
Well, you mentioned the shock of the disappointment and expectations and stuff, but there must be something else when you were in the field as a graduate that kind of caught you off guard. I know you mentioned before the getting the files in order and stuff. Maybe you could elaborate more on that.
Which one? Sorry, I didn't hear.
Getting the files and stuff in order, especially when you're doing so many projects.
Oh yes, well, yeah, that's another part. For example, exactly writing, talking about a portfolio. Because while you're at university, sometimes you're just pulled into the, life or developing your project, right? And everything is rush and you don't have much time to, compile your, you do have time to compile somehow your portfolio, but let's say, for example, you need to iterate your portfolio, just produce a slightly different portfolio, and sometimes you can find your files. So, this takes, discipline. Maybe I was not one of these disciplined people. There may be some people that are doing it better.
I'm definitely not a disciplined person.
Yeah, so, basically having these materials ready for you to do it. Because, for example, actually I'm thinking now, when I was applying to UL, that was the case, even now, sometimes. But now I managed to organize my files. But when I was applying to UL, I had my files all over the place. So I need a portfolio, and then I started frantically searching for, my digital files, left, right, and center, where I can find these, materials to make a convincing case portfolio, which is more tailored, and then writing again, and it's just became a slightly pain. And on that note, I think it's great to have all your other versions of portfolio, all the iterations, because it's just you can just quickly compile one rather than just go ahead and write new ones, because it takes a lot of time.
So what are your future goals or projects, and where do you see yourself in the next few years?
Well, that's a proper interview question. Well done.
It was give me your 5-year plan now.
Yeah. Well, as I said, I guess I want to continue developing in content design, and first of all, just continue my practice in content design in the first place. I want to pretty much develop a brand online, because I think that would allow me, or give me with opportunities and connections that pretty much as you, I see your brand is quite big, and you're creating connections, which is amazing.
Is it?
So
Thank you.
So exactly that. I want to pretty much leverage my online presence for more opportunities, because I keep, you hear stories, for example, companies reaching out. Actually, because I optimized my LinkedIn profile, I had 5 employers coming to me and saying, "Oh, would you like to work for us?" Unfortunately, it didn't work out because they had other applicants before me there. But
that's happened to me as well.
Yeah, but that's at least great to have these opportunities. Who knows, something may come out of that. And basically leverage my online brand. I mean, continue trying to develop that business that I'm having. Working with my partner, that we work on the LCC Accelerate about cycling safety, see how it goes, because I think there's a lot of value learnings, even just these entrepreneurship skills. I think that's great. Pretty much at the moment, I'm just trying to experiment and see, because now I don't have much commitments. Like, right, I don't have big family to care about, and it's just basically managing or trying to live in London. So that's all. And then I want to use that, and obviously the academic side, which I want to get more involved in, pretty much develop more practice and understanding. And if I like it, I'll maybe continue in that as well. If not, I'll just explore it and I'll like it, just as I tried with my previous experiences. Yeah, it's a little bit different routes, but try, and then eventually I'll come together to one piece. Yeah.
One thing I wanted to say before we just finish it all off was, I know you mentioned about self-care, and I think it's really important because I know like self-care is talked about a lot for women, and I don't think it's talked about a lot for men. And I feel like, I mean, especially like maybe in the creative industry, it might be nice to hear like your perspective of that. I mean, like if you've like gone through that, or like when you were in those hard times, or if you didn't,
Yeah, I mean, personally, I wouldn't say I've been through hard times specifically, which I'm happy about. I think I'm relatively, I don't know what's the right word, but I would just say resilient, for lack of a better word. Although I'll be honest, I've been inspired by people saying, keep grinding, keep hustling, that, pretty much be productive 100% of your awake time, which obviously is not a great idea, because I notice myself, there's a lot of times, for example, in this creative work, and even on master's level, you need to be refreshed. You need to have slept well, and just so you'll be able to produce creative work and think more, critically about the work. Because otherwise, you're just pretty much turning into some form of chat GPT that's just trying to, solve things that are just to produce, rather than just to think creatively around that. I mean, basically, your work becomes more surface level, which I don't think that benefits me in any way. I started trying to have more time just to relax.
Thank you so much to our guest, Slavi, for joining us for this episode. And thank you for listening to UAL Gradcast, Real Stories from UAL. We hope we've managed to motivate you to take your next steps and comfort you in the fact that you're not alone. Until next time, Real Stories from UAL.